Welcome once more, weary listener, to History for the Tired. As the quiet of the evening deepens around you, we invite you to set aside the day's concerns and allow your mind to drift to a time and place, both ancient and alluring. Tonight our journey titled Ancient Civilizations. Why you wouldn't last a day. In a Minoan palace, the Moor takes us to the sun-drenched island of Crete, cradled in the turquoise embrace of the Mediterranean Sea. We'll step into the world of a sophisticated Bronze Age civilization whose grand palaces hummed with life, vibrant artistry, and a culture that continues to fascinate archaeologists and historians alike. However, beneath the dazzling frescoes and surprisingly advanced plumbing, lay a daily reality that might feel profoundly alien to our modern sensibilities. We begin by imagining ourselves not as admiring tourists, but as individuals suddenly thrust into the intricate rhythms and unexpected challenges of a Minoan. So, settle in, find your most comfortable position, and let the gentle whispers of the Aegean breeze carry you back in time. Remember to relax and let history lull you to sleep. If you enjoy this journey, please subscribe to History for the Tired and let us know in the comments where you're re-listening from. We love knowing where our stories are reaching across the globe. Imagine, if you will, the gentle, diffused light of a Cretan dawn filtering into your sleeping quarters. It's not the sharp, immediate brightness of a modern electric light, but a slow, growing illumination that gradually banishes the deep shadows of the night. You stir, perhaps on a low-slung bed frame woven from reeds, or simple timber topped with animal hides, or thick, hand-woven wool. The cool touch of the plastered walls against your skin might be the first sensation, a welcome counterpoint to the warmth that will soon envelop the island. As the sun climbs higher, there's a distinct, earthy scent in the air, a blend of dry dust, the faint salt temps of the nearby sea, and the subtle, musky aroma of damp earth, and perhaps stored grains from lower levels of the sprawling palace complex. As you awaken more fully, a cacophony of gentle, yet pervasive, sounds begins to define the morning within the palace. Distant murmurs of voices, the soft scuffle of sandal-clad feet on stone floors, the occasional clang of pottery from kitchens, and the distant, rhythmic thud of artisans already at work, perhaps a stonecutter or a carpenter. True silence, as we might know it in a private modern home, would be a rare commodity. Privacy, in fact, would be a fluid and often absent concept within the close-knit, communal life of a Minoan palace. Every activity, from daily ablutions to meals, would likely unfold within earshot or view of others. Your first conscious need would be for water. While Minoan palaces were remarkably advanced for their era, boasting intricate terracotta pipe systems and sophisticated drainage channels that carried fresh water in and waste out the immediate availability of running water from a tap, as we know it, was non-existent. You'd likely make your way through a series of interconnected rooms and corridors, perhaps navigating a short, winding staircase to a designated washroom or a public fountain located in one of the palace's many open courtyards. The water, drawn from a nearby spring, would be cool and invigorating as it splashed over your skin, a welcome awakening. Without modern soap, you might use a rough cloth, or perhaps a simple mixture of olive oil and fine ash, a practical, though perhaps less fragranced, way to cleanse yourself. Now, consider what you would wear. Your contemporary clothing, jeans, t-shirts, dresses, made of synthetic fabrics, would be utterly alien and unavailable. Instead, You'd find yourself in garments made from natural fibers like linen or wool, perhaps dyed with vibrant, earthy pigments derived from plants or shellfish. Men commonly wore a simple loincloth or a short, patterned kilt, often with a bare chest, perhaps adorned with simple necklaces or armbands. Women, on the other hand, are depicted in art with surprisingly elaborate and form-fitting attire, long, layered skirts that sometimes flared at the bottom, and tight bodices that left the breasts exposed. Imagine the sensation of these natural, perhaps coarser fibers against your skin, a stark contrast to the soft, stretchy materials we are used to. Fastening these garments would involve intricate ties, elaborate knots, or simple pins, requiring dexterity and patience. Breakfast would not be a solitary affair with a quick coffee. It would likely be a communal experience, or at least the procurement of food would be. You'd join the flow of other palace inhabitants, administrators, artisans, servants, perhaps even members of the extended royal family, in a designated eating area or a bustling courtyard where food was distributed. The standard fare would be simple yet hearty, reflecting the agricultural bounty of Crete. You'd find coarse bread made from barley or wheat, perhaps baked fresh in outdoor ovens, its aroma wafting through the air. Olives and rich, green olive oil, a cornerstone of the Minoan diet, would be ubiquitous, accompanying every meal. You might also partake in some cheese made from the milk of sheep or goats, and fresh fruits like figs, grapes, or pomegranates, depending on the season. Meat would be a rarer luxury, primarily reserved for special occasions or the elite. The flavors would be robust, unadulterated, and deeply connected to the land. After sustenance, your purpose for the day would become clear. Unless you were of the ruling elite or a highly specialized artisan, you'd be expected to contribute to the immense logistical engine that was the Minoan palace. These palaces were not just royal residences. They were the central economic and administrative hubs of the entire region. This could involve a multitude of tasks, each demanding its own specific skills and physical endurance. You might find yourself working in the vast storerooms, the colossal arteries of the palace economy. These areas, sometimes reaching deep underground or across expansive ground floors, housed rows upon rows of gigantic pathoi. Imagine the physical labor involved in moving these immense vessels, or in simply measuring and transferring their contents from one container to another. The air thick with the earthy scent of stored goods, illuminated only by the faint light filtering from small openings or the flickering glow of an olive oil lamp. Alternatively, your skills might lead you to one of the palace's many workshops. The Minoans were renowned for their exquisite craftsmanship, and the palaces were vibrant centers of production. Perhaps you'd be assisting a potter, shaping clay on a fast-spinning wheel, feeling the cool, wet earth transform beneath your hands. The intense heat from the pottery kilns would constantly radiate, a testament to the transformative power of fire. Or perhaps you would join the rhythmic clang of a metalworker's forge, hammering and shaping bronze into tools, weapons, or decorative objects, the smell of hot metal and charcoal filling the air. You might be involved in textile production, the steady, repetitive motions of carding wool or flax, spinning thread, or operating a vertical loom, producing the intricate fabrics for which Minoans were famous. The sounds of industry, the whirring of wheels, the striking of hammers, the rhythmic thud of looms would be a constant, pervasive soundtrack to your working day. Navigating the Minoan palace itself would be a bewildering, disorienting experience for a modern person. These structures were not built with straightforward, logical layouts. They were labyrinthine complexes with multiple levels, unexpected turns, narrow corridors opening into vast courtyards, and staircases that seemed to appear out of nowhere. There would be no signage, no clear directional arrows, no helpful maps. Getting from your sleeping quarters to a specific workshop or storeroom might involve a meandering journey, often requiring you to ask for directions from busy, perhaps impatient, palace. The constant flow of people, each seeming to understand the palace's unspoken geography, would likely leave you feeling perpetually lost and overwhelmed by the sheer scale and complexity of the structure. Despite their advancements, hygiene and sanitation standards would still feel rudimentary by today's measures. While they had impressive drainage, the concept of individual, private sanitation as we know it was absent. Waste disposal might involve designated pits or the use of communal chamber pots, emptied by servants, contributing to certain pervasive odors within the complex. The air, particularly in more densely populated areas, would carry the mingled sense of human presence, cooked food, and perhaps the underlying scent of the animals kept within the palace confines. The social hierarchy within the palace would be immediately palpable and rigidly enforced, even without explicit rules. You would instinctively learn to recognize those of higher status: the elite, the administrators, the priests or priestesses, more elaborate hairstyles, and the subtle deference shown to them by others. Direct interaction with the ruling class, unless specifically summoned, would be avoided. Maintaining the appropriate level of respect, knowing your place, and understanding the intricate unspoken rules of courtly etiquette would be a constant, subtle pressure. A wrong glance, an ill-timed word, could have unforeseen consequences in this hierarchical world. Beyond the work, your senses would be constantly bombarded by the unique sensory tapestry of palace life. The sounds of formal entertainment might drift from central courtyards or specific chambers. The soft, hypnotic strumming of a lyre, the reedy call of a double flute. You might witness or even participate in public processions or ceremonies, perhaps involving offerings to deities, libations poured onto the earth, or the famous and enigmatic bleeping rituals. These spectacles, depicted so vividly in the palace frescoes, would offer a profound, if perhaps unsettling, glimpse into the Minoan worldview, their religious beliefs, and their complex social practices. The intense focus required to comprehend these cultural nuances, so different from your own, would be mentally exhausting. As the day progressed, the Mediterranean heat would become increasingly intense. Summers on Crete are long, hot, and dry. While the thick stone walls and internal courtyards of the palace provided some natural cooling, the sheer amount of physical activity, the close proximity of hundreds, perhaps thousands of people, and the lack of modern air conditioning would make the heat a constant, inescapable factor. You would find yourself perpetually warm, your skin coated in a fine layer of dust and sweat, longing for the cool relief of evening. Even when dusk finally fell, bringing some respite from the sun's direct assault, the work within the palace might continue. Olive oil lamps, their wicks casting, flickering, smoky light, would illuminate corridors and workshops, creating an atmosphere both mysterious and dimly lit. The sounds of the palace might shift. Fewer hurried footsteps, more of the low murmur of communal evening meals, the quiet strumming of a lyre from a distant chamber, or the hushed tones of religious observances. Sleep would likely come early, a deep exhaustion born of physical exertion and constant sensory input, a true undisturbed rest might be elusive. The constant low hum of communal life, the unfamiliar nocturnal sounds, and the sheer unfamiliarity of your surroundings would likely make finding truly peaceful sleep a significant challenge for a modern person. In essence, surviving even a single day in a Minoan palace would demand a complete mental and physical recalibration. You'd need to shed your modern expectations of privacy, convenience, and comfort. You'd have to quickly adapt to a rigorous physical regimen, a complex social hierarchy, and an entirely alien set of cultural norms. The constant sensory input, the pervasive communal living, and the sheer alienness of your would likely leave you feeling utterly drained and overwhelmed by the time the sun finally dipped below the Aegean horizon, underscoring just how profoundly different life was in this sophisticated yet demanding Bronze Age world. As we allow the imagined sounds and textures of Minoan palace life to gently recede, our journey now takes a turn, moving from the daily rhythms of human endeavor to the grand, often terrifying forces of nature that shaped this ancient world. The very landscape of the Aegean, serene and blue on the surface, conceals a history of profound, cataclysmic events that altered destinies and reshaped civilizations. Our next segment invites us to contemplate one such event, a natural spectacle of immense power that resonated across the Bronze Age, the echoes of which are still whispered by the geological record. Imagine, if you will, a time before the widespread understanding of geology, a time when the Earth's movements were attributed to the unpredictable moods of deities. In the heart of the Aegean Sea, approximately 70 miles north of Crete, lay an island then known as Thera, now more famously called Santorini. For countless centuries, the resilient people of Thera, much like the Minoans on Crete, had built their lives on the fertile, yet precarious, slopes of what was, unbeknownst to them, a colossal volcano. They fished in its rich azure waters, tilled its fertile, ash-enriched, volcanic soil, and constructed vibrant towns with multi-storied buildings and intricate frescoes, living with a tranquility that belied the immense, slumbering power beneath their very feet. Their daily existence, filled with the simple joys of a thriving agricultural and maritime community, seemed utterly disconnected from the titanic geological forces that had shaped their home and would ultimately reshape their destiny. The signs, in retrospect, would have been there, subtle at first, then growing increasingly insistent. Perhaps for weeks, or even months, leading up to the main event, there would have been an increase in seismic activity. Small, frequent tremors, almost constant, would have rattled the pottery on shelves, caused the plastered walls of their homes to creak and groan, and sent nervous shivers through the ground. These might have been dismissed as minor inconveniences, a commonplace feature of life in an earthquake-prone region, attributed perhaps to the restless movements of an underworld deity. Animals with their heightened senses and intuitive connection to the earth might have unusual, agitated behavior. Flocks of birds abandoning their nests, and frantic flight livestock becoming restless and refusing to graze, a palpable yet inexplicable unease spreading through the natural world around them. Then perhaps more overt physical changes in the landscape itself. New emitting plumes of acrid steam and sulfurous gases, the water in natural springs growing unnaturally warm, a faint pungent smell of sulfur carried on the shifting sea breezes growing stronger with each passing day. These phenomena, though unsettling, would have been interpreted not as harbingers of doom, but as inexplicable quirks of their sacred island, perhaps even signs of divine presence. Finally, the precursory eruptions would have begun in earnest. a series of smaller, yet increasingly violent, phreatomagmatic eruptions, where rising, superheated magma encountered in vaporized groundwater, creating explosive bursts of steam, ash, and rock. Imagine the initial shock. Towering columns of dark ash and steam beginning to rise ominously from the central caldera of the island, slowly yet inexorably, blotting out the brilliant Mediterranean sun, casting an unnatural eerie twilight over the entire Egypt. The very air would grow thick and heavy with fine, gritty volcanic ash, settling everywhere like a macabre, gray snow, coating every surface, dulling every color. The sounds would be deafening, a deep, resonant roar emanating from the bowels of the earth, punctuated by sharp, thunderous explosions that would vibrate through the very bones of anyone unfortunate enough to be nearby. The ground would shake violently, not with mere tremors, but with sustained, terrifying convulsions, causing buildings to crack and fracture, whilst to crumble, and the very ground beneath one's feet to heave and undulate like an agitated sea. As the eruption escalated, the sheer, unimaginable scale of the event would have become terrifyingly apparent. This was not merely a local disturbance, a temporary inconvenience. The Minoan eruption of Thera, often accurately dated by archaeologists to around 1600 BCE, was one of the most powerful volcanic events in human history, certainly within the recorded history of the Mediterranean, perhaps even dwarfing the famous eruption of Krakatoa in its sheer explosive force. Imagine the immense Plinian column, a monstrous, dark, and terrifying cloud of ash rock and gas, rising tens of miles into the stratosphere, an undeniable, colossal pillar of destruction, against the sky visible for hundreds, even thousands of miles across the ancient world. The sheer volume of pumice and ash ejected from the collapsing caldera would have been staggering, blanketing the entire island of Thera, to depths of many tens of meters, burying entire towns like Crete, almost perfectly paradoxically preserving them as time capsules for millennia. For the resilient inhabitants of Thera, there would have been a frantic, desperate, and terrifying evacuation. The initial warning signs, though perhaps initially misunderstood, would have escalated into undeniable signals to flee. Archaeological evidence from sites like Crete, buried beneath meters of ash, suggests that the inhabitants largely managed to escape the initial, most violent phases of the eruption, taking with them their most valuable possessions and leaving behind little of human remains. But imagine the sheer panic, the heart-wrenching chaos of thousands of people trying to board any available ship or boat, desperately seeking safe passage away from the terrifying, continuously erupting island, leaving behind their homes, their livelihoods, and everything they could not physically carry. The air would be chokingly hot, thick with swirling ash and sulfurous gases, making breathing agonizingly difficult. The sky, once a brilliant Mediterranean blue, would be a perpetual, ominous, dark gray. On Crete, approximately 70 miles to the south, the experience of the eruption would have been different, yet equally profound and terrifying. The first unmistakable indication would have been the colossal ash cloud, visible even from that considerable distance, slowly, inexorably, darkening the northern horizon like an approaching storm of unimaginable proportions. As the hours passed, the sky over Crete would have grown unnaturally dim, an eerie twilight descending in the middle of the brightest day. Then the ash would have begun to fall. A fine, gritty powder at first, perhaps mistaken for an unusual, inexplicable rain of dust. But as the eruption intensified, the ashfall would have become heavier, accumulating on the roofs of homes and palaces. choking the fertile crops in the fields, contaminating precious freshwater sources. Imagine the widespread confusion, the profound fear, the desperate attempts by the Minoans to understand this unprecedented celestial phenomenon, perhaps attributed to an angered, vengeful deity. The vibrant, colorful landscape of Crete would gradually, silently, turn a uniform, desolate gray, draped in a silent, suffocating shroud of volcanic debris. But the most immediate and devastating effect on Crete would have been the series of colossal tsunamis. Following the climactic eruption and the subsequent rapid collapse of the volcano's caldera into the sea, immense displacement of water would have generated colossal waves. These tsunamis, estimated by geological models to have been many tens of meters high, would have surged across the Aegean Sea. Imagine the deafening roar, a sound unlike any other in their experience, growing louder and louder as the immense wall of water, kilometers wide, approached the vulnerable northern coasts of Crete. Coastal settlements, bustling Minoan ports like Kamos and Amnisos, and vast stretches of fertile agricultural land would have been utterly annihilated in an instant. Buildings would be torn apart and reduced to rubble, entire fleets of ships tossed far inland like children's toys, and countless lives brutally swept away by the overwhelming force of the water. The fertile coastal plains, essential for Minoan agriculture and the foundation of their prosperity, would have been scoured clean. The pervasive salt spray and inundation would have rendered once productive land unusable for years, even decades, leading to widespread agricultural collapse. The immediate aftermath on Crete would have been one of widespread, catastrophic devastation, particularly along the vulnerable northern coast, where the major Minoan palatial centers, Phaistos, Malea, and Zakros, were strategically located. Communication networks would have utterly broken down, as roads were, damaged or obliterated numerous settlements, destroyed, and the vital sea routes, so essential for Minoan trade and prosperity, made treacherous and impassable by floating rafts of pumice, ash, and debris. The sophisticated Minoan economy, utterly reliant on maritime trade and agricultural surplus, would have suffered a colossal, perhaps irreparable, blow, plunging the region into an unforeseen crisis. Beyond the immediate physical destruction, the long-term impacts of the Thera eruption would have been insidious and slowly eroding the foundations of Minoan society. The pervasive ashfall, even if relatively thin, over much of Crete compared to Thera itself, would have significantly impacted agriculture for years. Volcanic ash, while eventually enriching soil over generations, can initially choke young plants, reduce the amount of sunlight reaching crops, and contaminate crucial freshwater sources needed for irrigation and drinking. Imagine the prolonged struggle to grow sufficient crops in Ashladon. In fertile fields, the acute scarcity of clean drinking water, the widespread respiratory illnesses and lung ailments caused by inhaling fine ash particles that lingered in the air for months. These hardships would have inevitably led to widespread food shortages, severe famine, pervasive social unrest, and a desperate, bitter struggle for dwindling resources across the island. The psychological impact of such an unprecedented event would have been profound and enduring. Such a cataclysm, so utterly beyond human control or comprehension, would have shaken the very foundations of Minoan religious beliefs and their social order. Their sophisticated, seemingly peaceful civilization, built on prosperity, artistry, and a deep, harmonious connection to the natural world, would have been confronted with the terrifying, destructive, and seemingly arbitrary power of nature. The inherent trust in the stability of their world, their faith in their benevolent deities, and their confidence in the abilities of their ruling leaders would have been severely tested, fostering a pervasive sense of fear and insecurity that could cripple a society for generations. While archaeologists and historians continue to tirelessly debate the precise extent to which the Thera eruption directly caused the ultimate decline and eventual collapse of the great Minoan civilization, with other complex factors like internal strife, resource depletion, climate shifts, its profound impact was undeniably immense and transformative. It would have initiated a prolonged period of profound instability, irrevocably weakened their extensive infrastructure, irrevocably disrupted their vital trade networks, and left an indelible, lasting scar on the collective psyche of the Minoan people, setting the stage for future vulnerabilities and eventual decline. The grand palaces, while perhaps not all directly destroyed by the tsunamis or overwhelming ash, would have faced severe, crippling disruption. Their intricate networks of control and influence fractured by the widespread island-wide disaster. The event of Thera serves as a powerful, sobering reminder of the inherent fragility of even the most advanced and flourishing human societies in the face of nature's raw, uncontrollable power. It transformed a vibrant, thriving Bronze Age landscape into a tableau of widespread destruction, profound despair, and long-term suffering. A geological testament to forces that lie far beyond human comprehension or control. Its echoes would have reverberated through generations, a chilling, indelible memory of the day. The sky turned ominously dark, and the mighty sea rose up in anger to claim the land, forever altering the course of Minoan history. As the deep, resonant echoes of Thera's ancient fury gradually subside, a subtle lingering hum of geological memory, we turn our attention from the overwhelming power of nature to the subtle, yet equally profound mysteries created by human ingenuity. The Minoan civilization, with its grand palaces and vibrant artistry, also left behind tantalizing clues to its inner workings, intricate symbols, and enigmatic signs. Etched onto clay, stone, these ancient writings and the enigmatic rituals they perhaps describe beckon us into a world of silent contemplation, a world where meaning still waits to be fully unlocked. Our next segment invites you to join us in unraveling the quiet allure of Minoan scripts and the gentle yet powerful whispers of their sacred practices. Imagine, if you will, holding a small, unassuming piece of baked clay in your hand. It is ancient, thousands upon thousands of years old, still seemingly warmed by the Cretan sun that has shone upon it for millennia. Etched into its surface are delicate, intricate markings, precise and deliberate, yet profoundly unfamiliar. These are not like the letters you read every day, nor even like the grand, pictorial hieroglyphs of Egypt or the wedge-shaped cuneiform of Mesopotamia. These are distinct symbols, unique to this island, arranged in neat lines, hinting at forgotten words, complete sentences, and perhaps even the profound thoughts of individuals long vanished. This is a fragment of Minoan writing, a silent testament to a sophisticated bureaucracy, a complex economy, an illiterate society, yet one that, to this day, largely keeps its deepest secrets, whispering only tantalizing clues from the distant past. The brilliant minds of the Minoan civilization developed not just one, but at least two primary writing systems, each with its own unique characteristics and challenges for modern scholars. The older, and even more elusive, of these is known as Cretan. Imagine a system where the symbols appear to be simplified pictures of everyday objects, a human hand, a double axe, the head of an animal. Yet, these are not purely pictorial representations. where each image directly stands for the object it depicts. Instead, they are part of a more abstract and complex system, likely either logographic or more probably a form of syllabic writing. The surviving examples of Cretan hieroglyphic are relatively few, often found on exquisite clay sealstones, and beautifully carved, used for administrative purposes, such as marking ownership of goods, or perhaps even for personal identification in sealing documents. The sheer artistry and meticulous detail evident in these tiny, intricate carvings suggests a society that valued aesthetic beauty and skilled craftsmanship, even in its most mundane record-keeping. Imagine the patient, steady hand of a Minoan scribe, carefully incising these precise, elegant symbols into the soft clay or stone before it was fired or sealed, preserving their mysterious messages for an unknown future that has yet to fully comprehend them. The more prevalent and slightly less enigmatic Minoan script is called Linear A. Imagine a system that, to our modern eyes, looks strikingly familiar in its linearity and organization. Its distinctive symbols arranged in a straightforward, sequential left-to-right fashion on rectangular clay tablets, much like our own written languages. Linear A is definitively identified as a syllabary, meaning that each individual symbol typically represents a specific syllable, rather than a single letter or a complete word. Thousands of Linear A tablets and fragments have been unearthed by archaeologists, primarily from the extensive palace archives at major Minoan sites, Knossos on the north coast, and Hagia Triada in the south. These invaluable tablets primarily record administrative and economic data, detailed inventories of stored goods, comprehensive lists of personnel, meticulous records of offerings made to deities, intricate details of trade transactions with other Aegean powers, and precise tallies of agricultural yields from the surrounding lands. Imagine the immense meticulousness and organizational prowess required for the Minoans to track the vast complex flow of resources across such a sophisticated palatial economy. A silent testament to the intricate organization needed to sustain and manage such a flourishing civilization. The tablets themselves are often small, conveniently rectangular, and designed for efficient storage, perhaps stacked neatly on wooden shelves within palace storerooms, awaiting a future that has yet to understand their full, nuanced message. The great, overarching challenge with Linear, and why it remains largely undeciphered to this very day, lies in a fundamental and frustrating obstacle. While we can, with a degree of certainty, read the symbols, meaning we know what sound a particular symbol likely represents based on comparative analysis with later deciphered scripts like Linear B, which recorded an early form of Greek, we simply do not know the language that the symbols record. It is akin to having the complete alphabet for a foreign language, but not knowing if that language is French, German, Japanese, or a language entirely unrelated to any living tongue, or previously known ancient language. Scholars have tried tirelessly for decades to connect Linear A to known ancient languages, various Semitic tongues, different branches of languages, or even the ancient Anatolian languages. But so far, no widely accepted. Imagine the profound frustration, the tantalizing closeness to understanding, yet the ultimate, seemingly impenetrable barrier of an unknown vocabulary and grammar. Every new tablet fragment discovered, every carefully unearthed seal, offers a glimmer of hope, a new, tiny piece of the vast, complex puzzle. But the overall solution, the key to unlocking the Minoan voice remains elusive, inviting quiet contemplation on the inherent limits of our current historical and linguistic knowledge. The inability to fully read and comprehend these intricate scripts means that much of the Minoans' own direct perspective on their world, their profound spiritual beliefs, their precise political structures, and their daily thoughts and emotions remains largely an enduring mystery. We are thus largely left to interpret their vibrant civilization primarily through the magnificent, breathtaking lens of their art and architecture. Imagine walking through the meticulously reconstructed halls of Nos, surrounded by the vivid, almost living frescoes that leap from the very walls, bringing ancient life into startling, colorful focus. These meticulously crafted paintings are not just decorative adornments. They are invaluable windows into the very soul of the Minoan people. Consider the recurring, iconic images that dominate Minoan art. The graceful, highly stylized figures of both men and women, often depicted with remarkably slender, elongated limbs, distinctive almond-shaped eyes, and a sense of dynamic movement. They are shown engaged in a wide array of activities, ranging from solemn religious processions and intricate communal rituals to the mundane, yet elegant, daily tasks and playful, energetic interactions. The widespread use of incredibly vibrant, bold colors, deep oceanic blues, rich, earthy reds, sun-kissed yellows, and verdant greens, speaks volumes about a people who clearly celebrated life, revered the natural world around them, and possessed a profound appreciation for beauty and harmony. You see countless enchanting depictions of marine life, an abundance of playful dolphins, agile fish, and sinuous octopi rendered with astonishing fluidity, a clear, unmistakable reflection of their intrinsic connection to their island environment and their undeniable mastery of the sea. These recurring images, particularly the prominence of nature, suggest a deep reverence for the natural world and perhaps a less overtly martial or aggressive society compared to some of their more bellicose contemporaries. Among the most captivating and profoundly enigmatic aspects of Minoan culture, as so vividly depicted in their surviving art, are the sacred rituals, particularly those involving bowls. Imagine yourself standing in a vast, open central courtyard of a palace, perhaps bathed in the soft golden glow of the Cretan sun. Here, young men and women, depicted with astonishing agility, courage, and seemingly impossible grace, are shown performing truly extraordinary feats of bullet. This was not a violent, bloody, or cruel spectacle akin to the later Roman gladiatorial games. Instead, it appears to have been a highly ritualized, incredibly acrobatic, and deeply symbolic performance. Imagine a skilled individual grasping the bull's powerful, charging horns, using its momentum to propel themselves upwards, then executing an astonishing somersault over its immense, powerful back, landing gracefully on their feet behind the magnificent beast. The act itself would require immense physical strength, precise timing, unparalleled agility, and a profound, almost spiritual understanding of the animals. The precise meaning and purpose behind these bull rituals remain a subject of intense scholarly debate and quiet contemplation. Was it a test of initiation for young adults entering society, a spectacular display of elite skill and physical prowess, a profound religious offering or sacrifice to a powerful deity, or perhaps a unique form of ritualistic combat that transcended mere entertainment? The bull itself, a powerful, fertile, and awe-inspiring creature, clearly held deep symbolic significance for the Minoans, perhaps representing raw power, vital fertility, or even a tangible manifestation of a divine presence. Imagine the palpable atmosphere during such an event. The low resonant lowing of the bull, the excited hushed murmur of onlookers, the intense, almost meditative concentration of the leapers, and the silent, almost reverent awe for the magnificent, powerful animal. The striking depiction of both young men and young women participating equally in these dangerous and demanding feats profoundly challenges traditional, rigid views of gender roles in ancient societies, suggesting a remarkable degree of equality, or at least a distinctly different understanding of physical prowess and ritualistic participation for both sexes in Minoan culture. Beyond the mesmerizing bull leaping, other religious elements are subtly, yet profoundly, woven into the very fabric of Minoan daily life and their exquisite art. Small, delicately crafted figurines of goddesses, often depicted with prominent, bared breasts and holding snakes, strongly suggest a widespread focus on fertility, the life-giving earth, and perhaps a chthonic connection in their spiritual beliefs. There are numerous images of sacred trees, simple yet powerful stone, altars for ritualistic offerings, and intricately designed ritualistic vessels, all collectively pointing to a complex and deeply integrated religion that was intimately intertwined with nature, the cycles of life and death, and the bountiful resources of their island home. Unlike the grand, monumental temples of ancient Egypt or the vast ziggurats of Mesopotamia, Minoan places of worship often appear to be integrated seamlessly into the palaces themselves, within designated cult rooms, or found in natural, sacred settings, like secluded caves and majestic mountain sanctuaries. This suggests a more imminent, less formalized, and perhaps more personal approach to their spiritual life, one deeply connected to the natural landscape. Imagine the quiet reverence as a Minoan devotee, humble offering at a simple altar, the delicate scent of burning incense mingling serenely with the fresh, invigorating sea air, the notable absence of monumental, imposing sculptures of powerful kings or grand, triumphal depictions of military conquest in Minoan art is also a significant and striking characteristic. This contrasts sharply with their more aggressive warlike contemporaries in the Near East, and later, the Mycenaeans. Their art predominantly focuses on the beauty of nature, the vibrant tapestry of daily life, joyous festivals, and profound rituals. This unique artistic preference, combined with the profound mystery of their undeciphered scripts, collectively paints a compelling picture of a civilization that, to our modern eyes, seems surprisingly peaceful, deeply artistic, and primarily focused on trade, cultural exchange, and an intricate, harmonious relationship with its immediate environment and the forces of nature. Yet, without their own words, to fully explain their deepest thoughts, their complex beliefs, and their nuanced perspectives, the Minoans remain, in many ways, an enduring enigma, forever just beyond our complete, definitive grasp. The quiet persistence of these profound mysteries, the tantalizing, unreadable symbols on clay tablets, the vivid yet silent stories depicted on palace walls, the serene yet powerful imagery of their sacred rituals, invite us to contemplate not just what we definitively know about the past, but also the vast, humbling expanse of what remains beautifully, frustratingly unknown. It is a powerful reminder that history is not a complete closed book, with every page turned and understood, but rather an ongoing journey of discovery, a patient, gentle unraveling of secrets, page by silent, page inviting endless contemplation and quiet wonder. As the enigmatic symbols of Minoan script and the silent, graceful movements of their sacred rituals drift from our minds, we move now from the general rhythms of palace life, the broad strokes of natural calamity, and the captivating mysteries of their culture, to the very apex of Minoan society. While the precise identity of their rulers remains shrouded in some mystery, known to us perhaps through the resonant whispers of Greek myth as the legendary king Minoan, the profound and far-reaching impact of the elite, their opulent lifestyles, their sophisticated administrative machinery, and their subtle yet pervasive influence shaped every single aspect of this flourishing and highly sophisticated civilization. Our final, expansive segment invites us to consider the less obvious, yet profoundly influential and often luxurious aspects of power and privilege within the Minoan world, gently contrasting it with the more challenging daily realities we've already explored. Imagine, now, a distinct and profound shift from the communal bustle, the physical demands of labor, and the ever-present practicalities we explored earlier within the broader palace environment. You are no longer one among many laboring individuals, nor are you an ordinary islander bracing against the direct impact of Thera's distant, terrifying wrath. Instead, you are granted a rare, privileged glimpse, an almost intimate vantage point into the very pinnacle of Minoan society. These were the select individuals who resided in the most refined, aesthetically pleasing quarters of the sprawling palaces, whose entire lives were marked by an unparalleled level of comfort, an immersive appreciation for artistry, and an effortless access to resources almost unfathomable to the vast majority of their contemporaries, or indeed, to most people in the ancient world. Consider, first, the sheer luxury and refinement of the living spaces enjoyed, unlike the more functional, perhaps somewhat cramped and austere, rooms allocated to servants, guards, or common artisans. Their private apartments within the sprawling palace complexes were meticulously designed, constant circulation of fresh air, and an overwhelming sense of beauty. Imagine stepping into rooms adorned floor to ceiling with breathtaking, vibrant frescoes, masterpieces of ancient art that seemed to leap from the very walls. These paintings depicted not just grand communal rituals or solemn processions, but intimate, tranquil scenes of nature, playful, graceful dolphin arcing through azure waters, elegant birds soaring amidst clusters of blooming lilies, serene women gathering precious saffron in sun-dappled fields. The walls themselves might have been coated in smooth, cool plaster, perhaps painted in soft, calming pastel shades of rose, ochre, or pale blue, providing a serene and aesthetically pleasing backdrop to their daily lives. Large, expertly designed windows, or open loggias, would allow the gentle Mediterranean breeze to circulate freely through the chambers, offering panoramic, unobstructed views of lush, meticulously manicured internal courtyards, the bustling activity of the lower palace town, and stretching beyond, the shimmering, endless expanse of the Aegean Sea. The floors, unlike rough earth or simple beaten clay, might have been crafted from polished stone, cool and smooth underfoot, or perhaps adorned with intricate, visually captivating pebble mosaics depicting geometric patterns or natural forms. The very air within these elite quarters would have carried distinctly different scents from the common areas. Not the pervasive aroma of wood from communal fires, or the robust smells of cooking. But perhaps the delicate, the sweet, heady aroma of cultivated flowers from carefully tended palace gardens, or the subtle, clean perfume of fine olive oil mixed with aromatic herbs used both for personal grooming and to scent the chambers. This was a carefully curated sensory environment, meticulously designed for profound comfort, aesthetic pleasure, and an undeniable sense of serene luxury. Now, consider the daily rhythms of an elite Minoan. A stark contrast to the demanding routines we previously explored. Their mornings would certainly not begin with urgent back-breaking manual labor. Instead, they would be marked by a more leisurely, almost ritualistic pace. A retinue of highly trained servants would attend to their every need, bringing fresh, cool water for washing from palace, fountains carefully selecting and arranging their elaborate multi-layered clothing, perhaps even assisting with the intricate, often time-consuming hairstyles that were fashionable among the Minoan aristocracy. The Minoan elite, particularly the women, were famously depicted with strikingly elaborate coiffures, often intricately braided, piled high, or adorned with ribbons, strings of beads, or even delicate, exquisitely crafted gold pins. Their clothing would be of the finest, most gossamer linen or richly dyed wool, woven with extraordinary skill and perhaps even incorporating subtle, shimmering, woven patterns or delicate, unlike the utilitarian, functional attire of the laborers. Their garments would be designed for grace, visual display, effortless movement within the palace environment, and a profound sense of personal adornment. Meals for the elite would be a refined affair, often served in dedicated, elegantly appointed dining chambers, or perhaps in open-air lodges, overlooking a serene courtyard. While the staple foods would be broadly similar to the common diet, the sheer variety, abundance, and quality of the ingredients would be significantly superior. Imagine platters laden with freshly caught seafood, glistening fish, tender octopus, succulent shellfish, brought directly from the teeming waters of the Aegean by specialized fishermen, exotic fruits, perhaps rare dates imported from the Levant, or succulent pomegranates, not commonly available to the general populace, would be presented in decorative bowls. Fine wine, stored in elegant, beautifully painted amphorae, would flow freely. Honey, a prized and precious sweetener, might be generously drizzled over fresh cheese or a variety of fruits, adding a touch of sweetness to their discerning palates. The entire dining experience would be communal, fostering social connection, but within a more intimate, select group of peers and close family, perhaps accompanied by the soft, soothing strains of lyre music or quiet, cultured conversation. The focus would be as much on aesthetic pleasure, the art of presentation, and social engagement, as it was on simple sustenance. The core of an elite Minoan's day, however, revolved not around physical labor, but around administration, oversight, and strategic while not physically demanding in the same way as a workshop artisan. This was intellectually rigorous and demanded constant engagement. The palaces were not simply grand residences. They were the central, highly organized hubs of the entire Minoan economy, functioning as vast storage facilities, sophisticated manufacturing centers, and intricate redistribution networks for an entire region. Imagine an elite official, perhaps a male scribe, or a high-ranking steward, meticulously overseeing the incoming shipments of raw materials. Vast quantities of wool, from sheep flocks, thousands of liters of olive oil from expansive groves, precious timber from distant forests. He would supervise the work of highly skilled artisans in the palace workshops, ensuring the quality and consistency of fine textiles, exquisite pottery, or intricate metalwork, destined for both local consumption and long-distance trade. He might manage the complex logistics of redistributing finished goods, perhaps negotiating intricate trade agreements with foreign merchants arriving at the bustling Minoan ports from distant lands. His days would be filled with the careful, precise tracking of inventories, the astute calculation of resources, and the meticulous organization of a vast labor force, all diligently recorded on the very linear A tablets we discussed earlier. The ability to read and write, while not exclusively confined to the elite, would have been highly concentrated among them, a powerful and indispensable tool for maintaining centralized control and efficient organization over a highly complex and thriving palatial economy. For elite women, their influence might have been more subtle and indirect than the male administrators, but no less significant or pervasive. The pervasive presence of elegant female figures in Minoan frescoes and the prominence of goddesses in their religion strongly suggest a society powerful and perhaps even sacred role. Imagine a noblewoman overseeing the intricate production of the palace's finest textiles, managing a vast household staff, numbering in the dozens or even hundreds, or actively participating in complex religious ceremonies and rituals. Her influence might extend to managing vast agricultural estates, ensuring efficient crop production, or even engaging in shrewd diplomatic exchanges through the presentation of valuable gifts and the forging of strategic alliances with other powerful families or foreign dignitaries. Their days would involve a constant, delicate interplay of domestic management, demanding social obligation, and perhaps a deep, personal spiritual engagement, all seamlessly woven into their elegant attire and serene postures so often depicted in the art. Beyond the direct oversight and administrative duties, the elite also actively engaged in diplomacy and extensive trade networks. Imagine a Minoan official, cloaked in fine robes, graciously receiving foreign dignitaries, arriving from powerful realms like Egypt, the Levant, or the burgeoning Mycenaean mainland. The exchange of opulent and exotic gifts, shimmering precious metals, exquisitely carved, ivory rare, aromatic spices, and unique raw materials would signify mutual respect, establish vital diplomatic ties, and solidify crucial trade relationships that underpinned the Minoan economy. The Minoans were unparalleled expert seafarers, their swift and sturdy ships traversing the entire Aegean Sea and venturing far beyond, bringing back not just valuable goods, but also new ideas, innovative technologies, and diverse artistic influences that continuously enrich their own culture. The elite managed these complex and far-reaching networks, their strategic decisions shaping the very prosperity, cultural dynamism, and enduring influence of the entire civilization. The distant calls of foreign sailors in the bustling harbor, the soft rustle of exotic, imported fabrics, the subtle glint of foreign gold, and the distinct aromas of unfamiliar spices. These would be constant, subtle reminders of their broad international reach and the far-flung connections of their palatial economy. Leisure and refined artistic pursuits were also a profoundly significant and cherished part of elite life. With the basic necessities of life and the burdens of manual labor meticulously managed by a vast, dedicated network of laborers and servants, the elite possessed the invaluable luxury of cultivating highly refined tastes and pursuing intellectual and aesthetic endeavors. Imagine serene evenings spent listening to the soothing, melodic strains of live music, perhaps the soft, hypnotic strumming of a lyre, or the haunting, reedy melody of a double flute. Accompanied by the gentle voices of singers or storytellers, they would be the patrons who commissioned the exquisite world-renowned frescoes that still amaze us today, meticulously dictating themes and admiring the finished artistry. They might engage in elaborate, multi-day banquets and grand feasts, celebrating religious festivals, important social occasions, or significant agricultural milestones, where food and diverse entertainment would be lavishly provided. Even their physical activities, such as the famous bull leaping, while undeniably ritualistic and dangerous, also served as a spectacular display of prowess, a powerful symbol of their courage, and a highly skilled form of public entertainment. Their world, from the grand architectural design of their palaces to the smallest painted pottery shard, was utterly permeated with a pervasive sense of aesthetic appreciation. A quiet, almost spiritual, pursuit of beauty in every form, color, and fluid movement. The challenges faced by the Minoan elite, while profoundly different from the immediate struggles of the common person, were no less significant or weighty. They bore the immense, overarching burden of responsibility for the seamless functioning of the entire, intricate palatial system. Economic downturns, severe crop failures due to unpredictable weather, or critical disruptions to vital trade routes would directly and immediately impact their ability to maintain centralized control, provide for their populace, and ensure the continued prosperity of their realm. Internal palace politics, the subtle yet fierce rivalries among powerful aristocratic families, vying for influence, and the constant delicate need to maintain intricate alliances and prevent internal dissent would create an atmosphere of subtle yet pervasive tension. Even the very natural world, as we saw so dramatically with the eruption of Thera, could bring sudden, catastrophic ruin, testing their leadership, their resilience, and their vast resources to the absolute limit. Their lives were a delicate, constant balance of immense privilege and equally immense obligation, of outward serenity and an underlying, persistent pressure to maintain order and prosperity. In essence, the life of the Minoan elite, while perhaps seeming idyllic compared to the harsh sun-baked realities of a shepherd or the relentless toil of a palace laborer, was in fact a complex, demanding dance of power, profound responsibility, intellectual acumen, and the continuous cultivation of an aesthetically rich world. They were the skilled orchestrators of a highly sophisticated society, their strategic decisions rippling through every single level of Minoan life, their refined tastes defining an era of unparalleled artistry and cultural flourishing. Their existence lived within the elegant, sprawling confines of their magnificent palatial homes, was the golden thread that intricately wove together the diverse and sometimes disparate elements of the Minoan civilization, standing as a testament to a highly organized, deeply artistic, and profoundly influential people whose quiet yet pervasive influence extended far beyond the beautiful sun-drenched shores of their island home. As the last echoes of Minoan elegance and the subtle rhythms of their elite existence gently recede, we softly bring our long journey to night. We have wandered through the demanding daily grind of the Minoan palace, felt the distant, terrifying rumble of a geological awakening from Thera, contemplated the silent, enigmatic wisdom of their undeciphered scripts and sacred rituals, and finally glimpsed the serene yet weighty lives of those at the pinnacle of their sophisticated society. These immersive explorations, from the mundane, often challenging, struggles of ancient survival to the profound, enduring mysteries of a vanished yet vibrant civilization, serve as powerful reminders of the incredible diversity, the quiet resilience, and the enduring complexity of the human experience across vast stretches of time. They are stories of ingenuity and vulnerability, of deep artistry, and the unpredictable, overwhelming forces of nature. Now, As the calming sounds of the ancient past softly dissipate, allow your mind to drift. Release any lingering thoughts of ancient duties, seismic tremors, unreadable tablets, or the weighty responsibilities of a Minoan lord. Feel the quiet, peaceful, present moments settle gently around you, unhurried and still. Let the gentle currents of these forgotten ages lull your conscious mind into a state of deep, restorative rest. For tonight, the history has been explored, the past has been gently revealed, and your peaceful journey into tranquil slumber can now truly begin.